Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a story time, and it's going to be one that I've been seeing a lot lately with different YouTubers that I watch. They have smaller stories that necessarily aren't enough to be their own separate story time videos, so they're kind of themed together and then kind of chunked in as a few small stories. And I have done a few of these before, so I thought I'd give it another try. I have just kind of a running list going of things that I would love to do for story times, and then realized that a lot of the stories would be really short, really small. So I just thought I would do the same thing and just kind of clump them all together. And today's video is going to be about some of the worst customers I've ever dealt with working in customer service. To start off, a little backstory. I worked in a retail establishment for what can only be described as way too long. And I worked at a couple different locations. All of these stories I'm going to be telling take place at this one particular location. It was the last one I worked at before I quit for good. And it was not in the best location, to put it extremely nice. This location, I would constantly wake up and look at the news and see news reports about shootings or carjackings or this and that, all within a 2-mile radius of that store. Needless to say, it was a pretty crappy part of town to work in. But these stories are just about some that really stand out. For starters, there was, I don't know, I guess I can't even really call him a customer because he was literally just a panhandler. So he was an older guy. He didn't really talk a whole lot. I don't know if part of that was by choice. I think it was because he actually did talk. He knew how to talk. He just didn't. He walked around in his walker. He was obviously always begging people for money, but all he would do was walk up to them and hold his hand out. He ended up getting a decent amount of money from some of our customers. You know, our store manager and then our other managers would go up to him and just tell him, like, no, you can't do that. Like, you're not allowed to here. He would sit right out front, which you're still not allowed to do. He would do it anyway. People would be walking out and he would just literally stand there and hold his hand out. One of my coworkers, she actually felt really bad, and she decided to just buy him like a sandwich. Like, we just sold like little cold deli sandwich kind of things. She bought him one and he refused it. He didn't want it. So obviously we knew that that money was not going towards food. One of my other coworkers had seen him get some money from somebody and literally take his little walker right across the street to the little dive bar. He ended up getting kicked out basically every time he would come in the store because all he would do was panhandle. We all knew his face, and as soon as he walked in, whoever was working like at the front or anything like that would just kind of point. He knew that he wasn't wanted there, so he would just kind of turn around and go. One time I was working like up at the front area, so I was the first, you know, worker there that he had seen, and he came in, you know, with his little walker, and I was just like, nope. I was like, you can't be in here, sorry dude. And then he literally was he took his walker and he was walking by and passed right by me. And I kid you not, he looked at me like he was just like put a curse on my soul and was just like, as he walked by. Then he started getting more aggressive to customers and going up to them in their cars. He went up to somebody who ended up being, you know, who was an employee there, who was filling in from another store. You know, he had gone up to her while she was in her car and held out his hand and demanded money. So, you know, he wasn't allowed like on the property at all. And there was another time I think I was leaving for the day, you know, it was like 3-4 o'clock, something like that. I was leaving and I saw him out there. I went up and then had the front person like tell our manager. So I walked out, I was like, you gotta leave, dude, you gotta leave. And he, you know, he walked by with his walker, walked right by me and just gave me that look of death again and was like, that guy didn't end up liking me so much. We would get people like that all the time, unfortunately, but he was definitely the one that was the most persistent. Well, the next story takes place on, I remember it was on New Year's Eve. I had to work till like 11 o'clock, of course. My boss that I was working for at the time definitely played favorites, so I was not one of those favorites, so I always got the short end of the stick. The only good thing that came along with working that shift was that my really good friend was working that same shift too. She was the manager. We knew each other before we even started working there, so you know, I know you're not supposed to like hang out with managers or whatever, but we, at that store, we didn't really care. So she is one of my really good friends. She still is to this day, but she was my manager on duty that night. And we were closing like at our regular time, which 10 o'clock, which is kind of stupid, but that company only cared about the bottom line. One of the reasons why I left. So they didn't change their hours. We were still open till like, it was like 10 or 11 o'clock. We were just getting ready to shut our doors. It was like 5 minutes before we closed. We had done all of our paging, you know, we done like all of our closing duties, so that basically once the doors locked, we had like 5 minutes worth of work and was able to just get out of there. But right before we were closing our doors, this older guy, I think he was probably homeless. I remember that he had an eye patch and he was just like really disheveled looking, and he was just really rude, really abrasive. He had come in and I think that he was like asking if we had like asking us for matches or something like that for a cigarette or something, and we actually didn't have any, just to hand out to people. Like, you know, some places that like sell cigarettes and stuff, sometimes they'll have like matches or whatever, but we didn't. And then he was just like, he had just picked up one of our lighters and tried to use it, and then we were like, are you gonna pay for that? And he's like, no, I just need to use it. I just have to light my cigarette, or I don't know, something like that. And he was just basically picked it up like as if it was just something he can just use. And we're like, no, that's merchandise. Like you have to pay for it. And I guess he had started yelling. I think it was me. I was the only one up there. And he had started just yelling at me because I wouldn't let him just use this product. I wouldn't let him steal, basically. So then I just called my manager up. She came right away and she told him the same thing. You know, he had started like, oh yeah, she won't let me use this and blah 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 blah, and she was on my side obviously, and she was like, well yeah, of course, like you have to pay for it. And he got so mad, he literally was trying to pick a fight with her. He had started getting really aggressive, like yelling at her and literally like saying he was gonna like kick her ass or something like that. I don't know. The good thing is that she is tough as nails, and she's one of the ones that I would definitely want on my side in a bar fight. So in that sense, I wasn't worried, but I was already, you know, I was ready to go into mama bear mode. If I can find my little, like a tweet or like a Facebook post or something like that I post about it. That's how I remembered that the guy had the eye patch. Because I had made a post about it. If I can find it, I'll post it here. My last story is about probably one of the most ridiculous, stupid situations I found myself in working at that place. So like I said, it wasn't the greatest neighborhood. We had to have a lock on our bathrooms because we were always finding people like doing drugs in there, stealing stuff. One of my coworkers caught a couple people like having sex in there, just all kinds of awful things. So we had to definitely have a lock. All of our regular customers knew that. There was one particular situation. It was like the middle of a day on like a really busy day. I want to say it was probably a weekend because I usually worked later shifts, and during the weekends I was always there like in the earlier morning shift. So it was middle of the day. I was somewhere towards the back and I had heard somebody page that they needed help, you know, ringing people up. I was on my way walking towards the front to go help with that page and help pull customers and everything. And as I was walking this way, a guy was walking back this way towards me, and he had said something, like mumbled something, and I was already like probably like 5 feet away from him, and I was like, what? And then he was like, I need to be led to the bathroom, you know, and I was still like walking that way like I had somewhere to be. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, our bathrooms are closed. They were like closed for maintenance, like something happened to them or whatever. They were broken on one of them, so we just closed both of them. So that's why I didn't let him in. I just kept walking. I went to go help out my coworker. I, you know, was ringing up at the other register, helping out customers, and then he ended up getting in my line, and he had like thrown his stuff down on the counter, and he's like, I need to talk to your manager. And I was like, oh, okay. So I call up my manager, who happened to be another good friend of mine. She was the one on duty and she had come up. He had told her, I asked her to use the bathroom and she yelled at me that she's not gonna let me in. And my friend was like, well, actually our bathrooms are closed, like they're broken down, like literally broken, they are not working. So then she was like, sorry about that, you know. He sets all of his stuff down, like kind of like shoves it back towards me, walks towards the door, and he's like at the front doors and he's like, I am never coming into that store again until she's fired. Me being the antagonist that I am, you know, I looked right at him and I was like, have a great day. My friend and I just kind of chuckled about it. Sorry, that one customer that's gonna refuse to walk into the store until I'm fired is not gonna affect our business. So that does it for today's story time, which is perfect timing because my battery light just came on. So I hope you enjoyed my little mini stories on some of the most interesting / worst customers that I've ever dealt with. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead, give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any more of this, and I will see you next time. Bye.